there are books that we feel, oh, we've been through that before and we've read it in the papers and you know, I don't need to know about this anymore. I want to say that the book I'm going to do next puts a human face and a rather startling lens through which to view that human face on a topic that probably is, next to COVID itself, the button issue that's been going on for the last long time. Kate Russell's explosive debut novel, it's her first novel, but you'll see why in a minute, has been described as Lolita for the Me Too generation. Through most of the 18 years it took her to write this, and she started writing it in high school, and she continued writing it all through university and all through graduate school. And it ended up being her PhD thesis, actually. All of the time that she was writing this, she did believe that she was writing a contemporary version of Vladimir Nabokov's story of 38-year-old Humbert who kidnaps a 12-year-old girl and initiates her into sexual dependency. Well, when Kate Russell first began writing her novel, she understood that it was to be about the relationship of a 15-year-old girl and her much older English teacher, many years older English teacher. He's 42. Like Lolita, she thought, she was writing, quote, a dark love story. And that's why she chose the title Vanessa, My Dark Vanessa, choosing the name that comes from Vladimir Nabokov's novel, Pale Fire. And that's what she really thought she was writing, a sort of a contemporary version of Lolita. But over the years of endless writes and rewrites and drafts, and she tells a funny story of one creative writing teacher who said to her, don't turn this in again. I've had enough of this. Over all of those 18 years, she saw as social attitudes changed until the Me Too movement broke the whole issue of consent, the whole understanding of what we mean by sexual consent, broke it apart like a watermelon on a rock, so you could see every bit of it, brought it to the surface with stories of girls and women who barely recognized that they had been victimized, that they had been trained to be victims, that they had been lured into victimhood. Russell realized that the reflective, though challenging novel that she was writing was indeed not a warped love story at all, but a tale of ugly manipulation and what we would of course call sexual abuse by a 42-year-old pedophile. It took many months, over 60 rejections, and the rejections said too raw, too controversial, too ugly a topic, before she found a publisher. But when she did, the novel occasioned a huge bidding war for Kate Russell, who had never published a novel before. My Dark Vanessa was billed as, quote, one of the most important novels of 2020. Oprah chose it for her book club. And then, 2 months before publication, a young woman whose memoirs had finally been published by an independent press because no regular press would take it, accused Russell of plagiarizing her memoirs. And of course, Katie Russell had only one way to defend herself. She was forced in her own defense to reveal personal information about her life that she had decided would never, never be disclosed. And she confirmed that the novel was inspired by her own several youthful relationships with older men. The allegation of plagiarism was proved immediately unfounded, but Oprah decided, having just gone through this very same issue with American Dirt, that she could not, in all consciousness, support this book, and so she dropped it. Nevertheless, as happens, my Dark Vanessa became an instant bestseller, aided, of course, by the ecstatic reviews in most publications. My Dark Vanessa opens in 2017. Vanessa Ives is 32 years old, Jacob Strain, and he will never be called Jacob by her right through the book. That's a very interesting thing. She always refers to him as Strain. Now 59, once her English teacher at Vanessa's main boarding school, is being publicly accused of sexual misconduct by another former student. Demands are made that he be fired. A cadre of women have come forth to testify their experiences with Strain, and a journalist gets hold of this and of some blogs by Vanessa, long gone, but still available. And she comes forward to ask Vanessa to please aid in the case, to please testify, to please tell her own story about Strain. But Vanessa cannot bring herself to do this. She cannot join with others to say that her sexual relationship with Strain when she was 15 and he 42 was harmful. I wasn't abused, she says to the journalist. Not like that. This is the older Vanessa now arguing. She is convinced that her teenage self had been a willing, guilty participant in the relationship. Returning to the past for evidence, she starts to ponder. Did he groom me, as people said? Did he train me into victimhood? She wonders. No, I was never a victim. He was my first love. Quote, all I can think of is the lovely, warm feeling that I had when he stroked my hair. The world is just trying to turn him into a monster. She is determined not to speak out about Strain. She tells him that. But she does reflect on his influence in her life. The story is therefore told by Vanessa in the first person from her point of view, but that point of view alternates between the Vanessa of teenage years as she grows into adulthood and the actual now when the Me Too movement is ready to find him guilty of pedophilia. She thinks about her vulnerability, but she cannot admit that her relationship to Strain was in any way ugly and in any way misconduct on his part. She wants to talk about how careful he was with her, how concerned he always was, how much she loved him, not about her inability to protect herself or even understand, of course, her need for protection. But the thing is, we do understand. And as we watch, of course, we learn how it affected the whole of her life afterwards into the present. Her bright, creative, young potential wasted. She has a mundane job on the night desk of a hotel. And by the way, that was the job that Russell held for years and years as she was writing this book in its final phases of draft after draft. We see Vanessa's off-kilter relationships with older men and her even more unusual relationships when a young man tries to date her and she tries to develop a seeming relationship. But we also watch her need for drugs and her need for alcohol. And we just are nonplussed by her ongoing, and she does the initiating very often, need to cease strain, the late night phone calls, even now, 17 years later. The one good thing we see is that she is in therapy, and she has a very understanding but a very laid-back therapist who leads her slowly to try and see all of this for herself. The narrative shifts back and forth between the now, 2017, and all those years of high school. She has to go to a different high school because she is expelled. She is the one who is considered guilty of luring strain. She is such an imaginative young girl. He has set it all up convincingly. He's not an attractive man, but he skillfully lures her. He lures her into believing that she is complicit, that she really wants this. And at times, in fact, she is managing their very furtive affair. It becomes an obsession. She is needy, she is vulnerable, but she is imaginative, and she craves admiration, and he plays on that. He flatters her. You are the same as me, he says. Different from others. You crave dark things. He makes her feel attractive. Your hair is the color of maple leaves, he says. You are special. She says, he says I was the first one he ever was with, like this. She is the chosen one. He even makes her feel potent, powerful in the relationship. Quote, jailbait means I have the power to turn him into a criminal at one touch. I'm seducing him too. She is thrilled by the discovery of what her body is capable of. And of course, she dwells on how carefully, and that's the word she uses, he is in luring her. And he lures her with books. Books she must read, with books that will grow her as he wishes her to be. She says, he brings me all these books not to teach me, but so that I can see myself in them. Sylvia Plath, Poe, Frost, and of course the corpus of Vladimir Nabokov. He buys her strawberry shorty pajamas. Strawberry, not just colored, but printed, short pajamas. The first time she stays with him overnight. She's brought a seductive black nightgown. But of course, she doesn't understand that it's her youthfulness that he wants. Later, when she is crestfallen that he cannot, in fact, make love to her, she begins to realize with her therapist that I am too old now for what he wants. He stocks his house with things that a young girl would like: ice cream, potato chips, candies, Hershey bars for her. And what develops is a complex and contradictory relationship as she sees it. She is at once unbearably naive. She does not understand, we think, but she is also cleverly conniving. And above all, she is obsessed with strain. My Dark Vanessa is a discomforting novel. It's tense. It is not the kind of novel that you read for fun. The Washington Post says she pulls no punches, that it is unflinching and provocative. And the prose is all of that. But the prose is also at times startlingly beautiful and often very touching. This is a book that over 18 years was carefully, there's that word, meticulously crafted. Jessica Williams, the editor who bought Kate Russell's novel, has said, I have read countless manuscripts exploring the issues of Me Too. It's a sure thing to publish now, but I have never read one that has affected me like Kate's. It's one thing to read newspaper accounts. It's one thing to pick up a psychology textbook to understand. This book makes you feel. You know Vanessa. You feel what she's thinking, and I mean that. You feel it, and you feel what she's saying, and you understand inside there is such an interior world in this novel. It's a tough read, but it really is worth every hour you spend with my Dark Vanessa. Thank you so much for being here with me in my kitchen. Thank you for listening as I spoke about books I have so much enjoyed in the last 3.5 months. And I certainly hope that some of them will become your favorites too.